I'm Zach.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Movie Vault. Today we have a very special guest for a very special movie. My friend, our friend, longtime friend, Shaz.
Hello.
Hello. Shaz has a JD from Case Western Reserve University School of Law. She has won the School of Law Leadership Award and the Service Award from the ACC Greater Philadelphia by serving on the board of directors from 2018 to 2020. With all these accomplishments, Shaz thought that she was, renowned enough to be on the podcast. So she reached out and said, hey, I'm going to suggest a great philosophical movie. And we said, oh, that would be great. We had to check our budget and our schedule first because we had to fit in,
Really, the budget was the concerning part.
We had to fit in Mac Miller's Ghost and, everybody else who was going to be on the podcast. I don't know why that came to mind. But I'm glad you could make it today, Shaz.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
And today we reviewed Joe versus the Volcano. It is quite a movie that has kind of fallen under the radar and has notably Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. It's directed by John Patrick Shanley.
Who's directed a grand total of 3 movies in his career.
And this came out in 1990.
Yeah. I believe this was his directorial debut. Now, he's written a lot of movies, and he is very involved in theater. So he's kind of one of those crossover. He also wrote, because he wrote and directed this movie. Mm-hmm. So,
anything of note?
Moonstruck. That's a big one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I have not seen it, but I had heard of it.
Okay.
And yeah, he's written a ton of plays.
Nothing else I've heard of, to be honest.
Okay. I mean, I personally, obviously, since I suggested this movie, I feel like even if all he ever gave us was Joe versus the Volcano, he gave us a lot.
What a gem. Yes.
That is true. If you're going to have one movie, this is a memorable one to have, which is funny because we keep talking about how it's underappreciated. I think like a movie with this premise should be talked about more. But I think this is sort of a film from a bygone era, wouldn't you say? When did you first watch this movie, Shaz?
That is a really good question. Not in the theater, because while older than you guys, I'm not that old. I want to say probably it came onto my radar in the late 90s. So
okay. So it's still
within 10 years of when it had first come out.
Yeah.
Couldn't even tell you honestly how it came on my radar, but it was definitely just on TV. I feel like
okay.
Maybe TBS or TNT or something like that.
Yeah.
Also, bygone era. We listen to a lot of podcasts that like aren't our own of people who are like, the rewatchables comes to mind because the whole premise of the podcast is these movies came on TNT and TBS and they played over and over again. Mm-hmm. That's just not how we consume movies anymore, which is sad. And I think that's led to a lot of these kind of movies kind of getting pushed aside because that's where these movies lived, or at the video rental store, which is another,
You can't trust the public to pick all their films. You kind of have to have it catered.
Right.
If you want to keep good movies alive.
And I think the push is for more streaming content and more more, if it's going to the theater, it's a remake, and original content is kind of milquetoast, middle of the road stuff that goes on streaming services. So anyway, we'll get our complaining about the modern era of cinema out of the way, and we'll go back and relive an era that Zach and I were not even born in.
No. So what did you think coming out of watching this for the first time?
I mean, I think, and it's funny because it's a movie that, and I have a feeling we'll get into this as we talk about it. It's definitely a movie that gets even better with each watching, in my opinion. But after the first one, I think I just left surprised of how inspiring and uplifting it was, because I thought it was just going to be kind of a silly movie because it's such a silly premise, and it has a lot of, to overuse the word, silly elements. But then there's so much more to it if you really listen to the dialogue and you really pay attention to what you're looking at. So, I think it finished and I just kind of sat there for a minute going, wait, I think I might love this movie. I have to watch it again.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. This was your first time watching it.
Yes.
Just confirming. And I had assumed. So it's my first time watching it too. The biggest takeaway for me, I would say, is one, this is refreshing. We just came off of a Terrence Malick arc, which is a very heavy load to take, and it's good to just let that go. Let the winds kind of take it away.
I love Terry, but man, if I had to watch one more super long monologue with like different, not whimsical. I don't like the breathy sort of, I don't know, heavy subject.
I kind of get what you're trying to say. Yeah.
We don't need to. You can go listen to that
Yeah.
to relive it. But you're right.
And then coming to this, almost, I felt a little bit of Goonies in this, just a little bit. And then I looked up and I was like, that they kissed in the middle of that dangerous scene where they're on the boat in the typhoon and they're just kissing, and you're like, there's no time. And I was like, this reminds me of Steven Spielberg, but apparently he executive produced this, so it's like that makes sense.
It's a little bit Spielbergian,
yes,
if you will.
Which tracks, if you think about it, because the movie is sprinkled with faces and names so it tracks that even in the background.
Yep.
Hey, there's Steven Spielberg. This movie is crazy.
Which makes me wonder why he didn't just direct it, almost like John Patrick Shanley's other films were directed by other people, and then all of a sudden he gets to direct it, and Steven Spielberg's an executive producer. That's not really his normal place.
Yeah, I think with Spielberg, he had a little bit of he had too many projects. So sometimes he had to, Poltergeist I just watched, and that's another movie that it's Toby Hooper who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you watch it and you're like, this feels like Steven Spielberg, which it's because he produced it. So I think sometimes he just didn't have time to do everything that he wanted to. Yeah. And maybe that's where he gave, John Patrick Shanley an opportunity. Obviously he wrote it too, so he deserved it.
Yeah.
But it was relatively a box office success too.
Yeah.
It made about $14 million. Not a super big budget, 25 million. I mean, that was a little bit more in 1990 than it is now, but nonetheless, it's kind of treated like a cult film now, which makes sense because the people who love it, like you, love it, and they want to tell people about it, which is a classic element of a cult movie, a movie that gets forgotten about, and then people rediscover it, and they just are like, why did everyone miss what was so special about this movie? Which I agree. This movie, we joke about it not being as heavy, but it kind of was a pretty heavy movie.
Sure, in an almost sparkly, majestic packaging, rather than the bleak realities of life like Malick. So. Yeah,
and I think the undercurrent of it is there's just ultimately there's hope there, and I think that's what I like about it. It's addressing the bleakness, it's addressing all of that, but I think it focuses on the choices we make in that.
Yes.
And then the hope that we can have, because we're not, we can choose in the darkness to just focus on the darkness, or is there something else?
That was best exemplified in that last scene where they're almost in that Titanic-esque situation where they're just floating on the amazing luggage, by the way. Worth it.
Always, sometimes it's worth the splurge.
Yes. And he's like, and she's like, what? He's like, oh, I don't know. She's like, what? And he's like, we're still in the middle of the ocean with nowhere within 1,000 miles. And she's like, it'll always be something for you, right? And for us, that's a dire situation where we're literally having a panic attack. But for him, it's way less than that. We think he's tough, but then she's even more tough in this situation. So it just shows that your outlook matters. And this film has he goes through a lot of different phases, Joe does, of outlooks. And
the way he starts, he's the dreariest guy you'll ever meet. And it is the dreariest place you could possibly work. Have you ever worked? You don't have to name any specific places. Have you ever worked in an environment that made you feel the way that this environment?
Or you can name them.
Makes you feel.
Absolutely.
I figured if you've been in the workforce long enough, you probably can relate to that scene pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually, it's funny. I watched this movie the first time I was, in my, late teens, early 20s, and I think as I've gone in my life more, the movie hits closer and closer to home in a lot of ways. And I worked. For a bit, I worked at a bank, retail banking. And that was just so sad. Hoping, because it was on that, and now I can't imagine people working in retail banks because hardly anyone goes into them. So you're just sort of sitting there in silence half the time.
Waiting
with
to
your
be robbed.
coworkers. Yeah, waiting to die. You just feel like you're this is my life. So, I wait, or waiting to be robbed. And, that was your excitement. And then you move on and hope you get robbed again.
Hey, how was work? I got robbed today. It was
Yeah,
exciting.
none of my branches ever got robbed. I did have some coworkers at other branches that did, and I will not deny I was a little jealous. Like, well, at least something happened.
Hey,
That's like they probably train you for like what you're supposed to do.
they walked
Yes.
in. They're like, "Oh, Shaz is here. I'm out."
I think they did fear me, my ninja skills. I mean, part of my job was training people of how to be prepared for when we get robbed
Yeah.
and all of that. But yeah, so working in a bank for a while was soul sucking. And then I worked my first lawyer job, actually. It was just in a company, and I was in a cubicle, and I just remembered standing up one day, and I just looked out on the sea of cubicles, and I was just so sad. Everything was khaki colored, and it made me really sad.
For those of you we're not taking any video for this episode, but Shaz does not dress in beige normally.
Yeah.
Nope.
And looking from the outside in at law is like presented in the media like a very exciting job. You're going to be doing a lot of really cool things. You're in court. But then from my understanding of how people have described it, when you start out and you're at the bottom, it's not very exciting at all.
No, not at all.
Have
Not
you
at
ever
all.
seen Better Call Saul?
No, it's on my list. It's on my very long list of things
I would
should
love to
watch.
hear an actual lawyer's perspective on
I would
Better
love
Call
it.
Saul.
Someone who I trust, only because it kind of shows like the depths of how hard it is in those first years of being a lawyer. And he went to the American Samoa School of Law, and he's
renowned.
Yeah,
What is it? Go land crafts or
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that. And it
I was
stupid.
waitlisted. Oh well.
yeah, but it's just interesting to see how that works. But this job that Joe has, what fluorescent lights or incandescent? I mix those up.
It's I think purposely obscure what his job even is. It seems like it might be like he's running like a library, like he's running some sort of catalog thing within a company, and it's in a room within a room, and the room is like really just supposed to be like a utility room.
It's like a cellar.
So he gets his own office, but it's like the absolute, outcast of a place that sells rectal probes and lube to
Petroleum jelly, Ben. Petroleum jelly.
Yeah. Feel a little bit more comfortable saying that now that I've been a nurse and less things faze me, but
And it's all kind of
it's
gross. Like,
Yeah, it's
I don't
just
know if
like-
you guys noticed that whole first part of the movie of the office and the company. It's a little like nauseating.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
sounds and the colors. You could almost smell the scenes, and you're just like,
yeah.
ugh.
Everything is
Yeah.
very on the nose, but in a really good way. Like it's trying to make the point that this is like the most mundane, boring, it has all the cliches of corporate America, but take away the facade of of cleanliness, right? That's
Yeah.
one thing you can at least give corporate America. You think of like a relatively clean office building in a skyscraper or something. This takes away all that, and like it shows the outside as the inside is, which I think is a cool way to show it.
For sure. And it's interesting. The song that was played in that first scene it was kind of just about selling your soul to corporate America, corporate business.
Yeah, it's a classic folk song. It was about I think the coal unions.
Yes.
So like they would set up like places that you would have to they pay you a certain rate, but to actually live you had to take out loans, and the loans were given out by the company. So you were literally in like working for the company and quote unquote making money, but you were further indebting yourself. And that's why they eventually did form
That's your one
unions.
music moment for this episode, by the way.
Sorry, I
you
just
only get one.
happened to know that
Yeah.
tidbit
Yep.
off the top of my head. It was a cover. It wasn't the original
Oh, gotcha.
version of the
Gotcha.
song. I'm sure it's been covered several times.
I'm sure you know them all. But we'll save it for another day.
Sorry that I know some things.
No,
Zach.
it's okay.
A whole episode on movie music. Ooh, I'll listen to that one.
That would be good.
That's
Yes.
actually
Maybe
that's
we
a good
commission
outside
that
poll
one.
idea.
Yeah.
But what would you say was the biggest takeaway? Not your experience, but the takeaway from this film, because that will go straight into the themes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard because for me it's two with this movie, and it's that everything kind of is working towards something, right? So nothing's wasted. There's always hope. Just kind of let things unfold and see where it goes. There's that famous quote of everything will be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end.
Yeah.
Which is actually this like weird, perfect synopsis of the gospel, in my opinion. But anyway, but yeah, I think it's just like just keep going, right? Don't lose hope. Just keep
Yeah.
going. Don't try and control it too much. So I think that's the biggest one for me. And then like a close second is that your outlook matters.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think I would agree with both of those. And then also just yeah, going off of the perspective, the outlook thing, seeing that in this film through the visuals was really cool. I think just going from that dreary fluorescent light, right? Not
Yep.
incandescent.
Yes.
Just basement, almost Michael Scott Paper Company looking business in the basement.
Correct.
And going from that to the beautiful colors of New York, to the lights on the boat, to that colorful island that was very orange. As a redhead, I appreciate representation. So that was very nice.
In a positive way.
But the representation by the Hebrew, Latin, and Portuguese, whatever.
Celtic.
Yeah.
Celtic, yeah, there were like 17
And,
different
like,
things.
Polynesian.
Yes, I
kind.
appreciate the representation of all world cultures, and the orange especially. But going from those dreary colors, the beige, the boring, the mundane, to that colorful thing, kind of shows that his outlook has changed. Went from this like depressed, almost the end is nigh, this is my life for the rest of my life, outlook to, oh, there's so much more to life than just this stupid company that I work for or this stupid boss that is keeping me under. And it's a very simple truth, but I think sometimes we forget that, right? I mean, in my life, it's like I'm studying every day, all day. Okay, this is my life, and I get content with that just being my life. But then I come outside and I'm like, oh, it's actually 48 degrees. It's not negative 12 degrees outside. It's a nice day out. Maybe I should play some soccer. And that's my experience. I thought of that as I watched this film. Do you have any similar experiences like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you get into the little tunnel hole of this is it, right? I work from home, I work for myself, and sometimes I'll just be, in my apartment or from my little workspace, and it's just me and the dog for a while, and everything becomes heavy. Or all the messages, and you start to read messages from family or whatever, right? And everything just gets heavy.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of step out and meet friends for something silly or light, or just go for a stroll. And you're like, wait, even just walking with my cute dog, one of my favorite things about her, just what she brings to me because she's so adorable. Other people, their faces light up, or other dogs come over, and you're like, oh, there's still sweetness and cuteness happening all over the place.
Even if they are sniffing each other's butts.
That's it, which is also adorable.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when Joe was on the boat, or maybe he was on the raft at this point.
The luggage?
With partition. Yeah, he was on the luggage raft.
Yes.
And he said something like, somebody told him that, or no, Patricia says this. I keep mixing up who said it. She talks about her dad saying that there's only a few people who can like see life for what it truly is, and those people
There's
are
only a few people who are
who
awake.
are awake, and those people are constantly amazed. And I was like, what a good outlook on life. Like, just to be amazed that we're alive and amazed that we can go outside and it's a nice day, or that there's snow, and like you can find beauty in everything. And a lot of times we choose to not see the beauty in things and instead see all the brokenness. So it's a good reminder, like you said, about outlook. And I think there's also an irony to the fact that Joe is a hypochondriac. Like, the doctor was spot on, even though he was kind of a fraudulent doctor. He was spot on about the fact that he was a hypochondriac, and he was constantly worried about what was going to happen to him. And in some ways, he gave him a fake, like he didn't have a brain fog. He wasn't going to die in 6 months. But then he jumps right into something that is like going to kill him.
Yeah.
And he's seeing all of this beauty, and he has this like new outlook on life, and yet his focus is the fact that he's like going to die. So it's like, it shows that like a lot of times our worries and anxieties turn into self-fulfilling prophecies. Maybe not in that obvious of a way where we're going to jump into a volcano, but sometimes that they do lead us to do things that harm ourselves or hurt ourselves, and we just have a really hard time seeing the hope in life. And this movie is like really whimsical, like silly way of showing those very like real things that people struggle with.
Yeah.
Which I think, you can watch a lot of movies that are like show the raw, authentic struggle. But we were kind of talking about this. Sometimes those movies feel like they lack hope. Like you're like, yeah, I know like people have a hard time with things, but like, what do we do? Like, what do I do about that? This movie, maybe, you can't take it as seriously, but maybe it's exactly what you need, like to show you, a serious thing.
Well, there's a piece of it too where some of those movies are so dark that when you're watching them, you feel better about yourself. You're like, well, I'm not that bad, right? It's so bad that people are so hopeless. But there was something about Joe, and I think the fact that they touch on his backstory of he had been a fireman and he had seen some things that, like, he had started becoming a hypochondriac because things were hard, right? He kind of touches on, I've seen hard things, I lived through hard things. So you see that sort of chipped away at his hope, and he let the fear of death and let fear become his perspective. And then I think that's the most interesting thing, that fear of death from all of these potential illnesses made him this like sad sack that made no real choices in his life and had this awful job. But then the reality of death suddenly gave him renewed life.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird flip that happens. Like as soon as he finds out, no, you're actually dying, so that it kind of makes you think about, if we just accept the fact that we're going to die, because we are, right? Like if you just accept that, now what are we actually worried about, as opposed to like the fantasies we make up?
Yeah.
I can say, like, I've thought about, like, what if I was, had a terminal illness, and then, like, I knew, like, in a year or two I was going to die. I was like, how would I live my life then? Like, I want to do all these things. And I'm like, why do I not want to do those things now?
Yeah.
Like, well, or, like, sometimes they become, like, very, like, you're like, oh, I could, help people. I could tell my story. But, like, you're right. We are all dying. Why are we putting off these things we can do to help people right now and, like, find hope in the world? And a lot of times we just assume it's going to happen a long time from now, especially when we're young, like Zach and I. We just assume that all these things are...
I'm okay.
You
It's
just
all right.
diss Shaz like that?
I am closer to death. It's okay. But I don't
And
know.
also,
We
young,
really
like
don't know.
Shaz still has many, many years of her life left, theoretically, potentially.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Probably
Yes.
more than you guys.
Yeah, I think so. I
think
hope
more
you
than
live
that.
to 1,000 years old, Shaz.
Ah,
the
solid nod
luggage
to
man.
the movie.
There were so many interesting, good one-liners in this film, where it was kind of a silly premise of a film where you can kind of take it seriously, kind of not take it seriously at the same time. And then they would say lines like, oh, maybe some parts of life are meant to go through alone, like you're supposed to do these things alone. And his whole friendship with Marshall, the driver, was a really cool sequence as well.
You're coming into focus.
The
That's
wisdom.
A great line.
You're coming into focus. The wisdom that he kind of gave him, like a man's clothes kind of show who he is or define who he is, And, there's a lot of truth to that. Just kind of like the way you present yourself kind of shows the direction that you've headed in life and the type of man you are. And then him helping him find that confidence too was kind of cool. But like a one-liner like that, and then the one-liner like, I don't know, there were a couple other ones just talking about, what was the one that she said at the end of the film that I mentioned at the beginning that was... it's always going to be something.
Yep.
Just stuff like that. And I think those moments hit hard, and I didn't expect them to, which was interesting.
Yes, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I think the one that hit the hardest was sometimes you're supposed to go through things alone. That was one that was kind of hitting hard. And I just got married almost less than 2 months ago, and it's like you have to do things alone still. Like it doesn't fix all of your problems. Like you're spending most of your time alone still. That's how life is, and everybody spends most of their time alone. That's just life, and that's not the point of this movie, but that's what I thought of.
There was a lot of jokes and things, but then it would cut to these like really serious conversations that, especially he has with the two sisters, Patricia, and then even with Dee Dee,
Angelica,
who are all played by Meg Ryan,
which is great,
which is a fantastic. And it's funny they even make the distinction that Angelica and Patricia are half sisters, but they look exactly like each other because they're all Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
But they're talking about these really serious, deep things, but then they're also challenging the way that Joe is thinking too, because Angelica's like, well, this is where we say like something really sappy and you don't really actually care, and which is kind of maybe true, and then he has to think about it and respond to that. And at one point she even's like, I don't have an answer to that, or she's just like, I don't know how to respond to that. He's like, okay, we can be done. It's like very real. Like a lot of times you like look at a movie and you're like, nobody would have a conversation like that.
Yeah.
But there's some parts of this movie that you are like, maybe two people would actually have a conversation like that, and it would end like that, and restart at some point. In all the whimsy and silliness.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I've seen this movie, cannot even tell you how many times. And as you're talking about the three women, all played by Meg Ryan, I'm having a revelation. You're welcome, everybody. Here's an immediate revelation I'm having. So the three versions of Meg Ryan are like these mirrors of what Joe was becoming in the three different parts of the movie. And this may not be any revelation to anyone else, but I can't believe of all the things I've noticed in the movie, this I haven't seen before. The first version, Dee Dee, she has also just accepted life, and as he's letting go of that sad version of life, she doesn't want to join him.
Yeah.
Right? That scares her. This idea of let's just see what happens, right? He said another great one-liner. He's like, tomorrow will take care of tomorrow or something like that.
It reminded me of Tomorrow Will Worry About Itself.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it was.
No, that wasn't you said it correctly. I said the Bible version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that version, and she can't do it. And then the second version, the flibberty gibbet, which we all just start using that word more? It's such a great word.
Sure.
She's sad, but she also just wants to enjoy the moment and be in the moment, which he's given this golden opportunity, and he wants to do that. And the third is more thoughtful and hopeful and adventurous and all of that. So yeah, I'm just realizing that version, and then even just the fist where she won't actually hold his hand, but then at the end she actually does. So it's like he reconciles to the lighter side of himself.
Yeah, and then he ends up with the last one, Patricia, who's kind of like the fully formed woman, I guess, in the movie. Because it seems like of the three, she's the best choice only because she's like fully, developed, to be honest.
Yeah, like you can see a lot of issues with Angelica. Like she's a nice person, but she seems like she has some issues to sort out before you would ever want to have a relationship with her.
Yes.
And Dee Dee's kind of like no development at all. Like,
yeah.
would have to completely. She's just kind of like a brick wall.
Have you ever been scared? Yes. Of what? You?
Just like nothing there. Nothing. No one's home.
Nothing.
But that's what the environment that it's supposed to do to you. It's supposed to turn you into like just a yes man or just someone who says. Who's like shifting blame all the time, like his boss, or you know, just repeating basic phrases. So I was looking at like the critical response to this movie, and it's really all over the place. And I was thinking about the fact that we're having such a in-depth conversation about like the themes of this movie, and it was so like panned. And I guess one of the reasons that it was not well received by some people is because the expectations were set that it was like this like standard big budget comedy. And maybe the way that the trailer, you're like, maybe they envisioned a little bit more slapsticky or a little even goofier, or it wasn't goofy in the way that people imagined. But I guess there was a Time critic named Richard Schickel, if I'm pronouncing his name right. He said that some people think that this movie is the worst big budget film of modern times. It was like compared to like Howard the Duck, which was also like a horrible. But he was like you have to set aside like the expectation that your preconceived notions coming in, and then you'll see like how unique the movie is and how it's not like other movies.
Yeah, movies
struggle when they like are similar to, or the expectation is that they're going to be similar to certain movies, and they're really like a new thing. And audiences hate like not knowing what they're going into. But I'm sad for those people that that I felt that way when this movie came out, because I think there's a lot here. Now, our guy Roger Ebert, guess what he rated this movie?
3.5 out of 4.
How did you know? and he said the film achieves a magnificent goofiness. Hanks and Ryan are the right actors to inhabit it because you can never catch them going for a gag that isn't there. They inhabit the logic of this bizarre world and play by its rules. And then he brought it to one of his festivals later and said that he should have rated it 4 out of 4. He thought really highly of this movie, which we're kind of Roger Ebert. Sometimes we go back and forth on agreeing with him, but you have to respect him because he watched so many movies and he has such a way with words and reviewing them. But I think the fact that he was able to pull out this meaning makes me think that there's a lot more in this movie than people give it credit for. So
yeah, I feel like that was unfair for those initial receptions to compare it to Howard the Duck. This is nothing like Howard, and Howard the Duck sucked.
That was awful.
And that rhymes, but
yeah.
Yeah. There was a question I had. And I said this in the middle of the film, and I haven't really thought it through or analyzed it, but you noticed it and you explained it to me. That initial shape that's throughout the film, that zigzag line, it starts off in the beginning where the company workers are all walking in that pathway. Then you said there's the flag, there's the lightning bolt. It's up on a poster in his room, and then as they're walking up the volcano, that's also there. So this shape is throughout the film. What do you think this motif is?
Yeah, I think a lot of people call it a lightning bolt. And you do it's one of those where the more you watch the movie, you'll see it is everywhere in the movie. And after a lot of viewings, I think for me, it ties to what he says as they're standing over the volcano, and he talks about the crooked road that has led me to you, or led me here, or whatever it is. But I think it's that. I think it's life is not a smooth path, and I think that symbol is almost marking, this is just part of your path, and it makes no sense. This crappy job, this doctor's office, your crappy apartment, but it's all part of the path that leads you to this person who is your person. Now, as a older single gal, I always hate that if that's the arrival point, because I don't think that is an arrival point.
Well, it's a Spielberg movie.
It can be, right. I mean, it can be a place, but either way, I think it's just the crooked road.
Yeah.
So
Because really,
of that.
meeting someone could be another zag on the road. It may not be the
Right,
end
exactly.
point, right?
Which,
Yeah.
for a lot of us, it has been.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that scene where he's like, 4 years, if I had it in my hands, you know, it'd be like pure, like gold or something.
Yeah.
And that's like a line going in the opposite direction, you know, for some time.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, like, you know, diverge from the path that's kind of set before you, right? If he just was kind of a drone sitting in his pod, he would have been just off the road the entire time. But he kind of like keeps correcting himself and back and forth until he finally is on this path that's kind of his own independent path at the end, making his own decisions for himself. And yeah, he wasn't doing that at the beginning of the film, right? He was just kind of going in the path that was set
just
before
following
him.
the path. But I feel like he accepts the fact that everything is going to be a crooked road, but just keep going, right?
Yeah.
Actually, even the lightning bolt that sinks the yacht is in that exact
Yes.
shape. It's just cool if you look at it.
So is this an anti-communist movie? I'm just joking.
Now, how is this about capitalism?
Because every good film is, you know?
Correct.
It might just be because it's the easy thing to tie correlations to, but
That's
Wait,
true.
is that something that anyone has actually tried to connect to this movie?
I'm sure I would go
I'm
out on
just-
a limb to
Yeah.
say that somebody probably has, but it's not something people talk about
Yeah,
a lot.
I was gonna say, if
it
anything,
is.
I could see them trying to say it's
Yeah.
anti-capitalist because of the business. But,
Sure.
Yeah, that, I'm sure there's an aspect
Yeah.
of that
Sure.
that you could
But we
try
will
to
quickly
pull out of.
poo-poo that and move on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
you could say some parts of that part of capitalism do stink, but it's again about your outlook
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it.
I'm also thinking it's the 90s. Which way would they normally lean in Hollywood? I don't know.
Now, the true reason they went with the American Panoscope is actually because Shanley, the director, he worked at a medical equipment company when he was 18 that made catheters, endoscopes, and artificial testicles. So this was like a personal experience. It wasn't just
That's
because
so
this
sad.
is like a gag. I mean, it was a gag, but it is also because he actually had experience with this. And
I'm sorry.
there was
I-
fluorescent light writing and a pipe with a valve that said "Do not touch." So the more personal experiences.
I have to ask. This is a little bit inappropriate. Are artificial testicles only for like aesthetic?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't think they can do anything.
I only know
No.
That would
this
be
'cause I know
so-
someone with one.
Okay, all right. Then end of the conversation. That's the answer.
Well, it's never something I've thought about.
Yeah.
And so now I know, so I don't
Yeah.
have to think about it again.
Interesting. I'd like to know someone with. In my medical training, I'm sure I'll find someone.
Though, yeah, one day it will happen. So I guess he did like actually send. He must have had a connection to Spielberg because he sent the script to Spielberg.
Oh.
Spielberg liked it, and he said, "You want to direct it?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "Wow, sure."
Yes,
Must have
Schindler's,
been a good script.
Schindler's List
Yeah.
was 93, so I think
Yeah.
Spielberg. That's the closest movie that could have been to this.
Yeah, and Spielberg was definitely going in I'm gonna be a serious filmmaker direction. Maybe because he was coming off Indiana Jones, which of course was very popular, but I think he was starting to get this rep that he was just only
Well, Goonies was
Like-
85, so that
Yeah.
makes sense. That was like right before.
he was like only a popcorn, like
Yeah.
you're going to have fun at the movies kind of director, and he really wanted to.
But I
himself.
like that. You don't need to change your personality just
I
to
know.
change. You
Not
don't
to say
be
that
divisive.
Well, I've only watched half of Schindler's List, and that's a long story of why. It's not because I don't like Schindler's List or anything. I mean, it's not an enjoyable movie to watch, but it's because I was watching it in a class, and I went to the one class and I skipped the next one, so I didn't see the second half of Schindler's List. That's really all it comes
Did
down
it to
to.
yourself.
That's his
I did
work
it to
ethic.
myself, so I'll have to come back to that one. Very different than Joe versus the Volcano. though.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I just blanked on. Nope.
You're good.
Okay, great soundtrack in this movie.
Oh,
We
amazing.
Move right along.
It reminded me of the Mystery Train film because of Blue Moon by Elvis Presley. Immediately brought me back.
And Tom Hanks is such a fun actor, and Meg Ryan, she's a fun actress. You're like, the scenes where he's like dancing and they're fishing and like those are so great. They just like they exude all of the life that is in these characters and they really make you believe like that you're in the movie with them, which is awesome. I mean, you see why people praise those two specifically. And Meg Ryan had to play 3 different characters in this movie.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's always challenging. And Tom Hanks was coming into his own at this point, and he would only get bigger after this film.
It's the prequel to Castaway, as we said, which is 10 years after this in 2000.
Yeah, he really. I mean, this is his height because after like Forrest Gump and Saving Private Ryan, he starts to become like. I mean, he's still a lead guy, but he's older now. So this is still like the young Tom Hanks era.
Yeah, this is even before.
Yeah.
This is like he's rising towards, the big giant ones. And I mean, again, obviously I love this movie, but I think this is part of what probably got him on directors, radar is, wow, this guy can do some really interesting things.
Yeah.
Even if the script doesn't necessarily seem like it's amazing, to your point, Ben, like what he brings to it, he adds layers to the character. I think it could have very easily been an actual flop of a movie if you didn't have the right actors.
Yeah.
And this was 2 years after Big, so that was a big movie that put Tom Hanks on the map, I think. So I think
After he was in Family Ties, of course.
Family Ties
Obviously.
for those 4 episodes.
He was so memorable.
The 3-episode arc.
Yeah.
I'm not joking about that. He was a great character. I watched Family Ties with my family growing up.
That makes
Because
sense.
my parents loved Michael J. Fox. And, like, he was so good in that. I, like, vividly remember watching that. Because, of course, my dad was like, oh, that's Tom Hanks. Like, at that point, I don't know that it meant as much to me, but...
Is Tom Hanks one of the most recognizable actors?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you ask someone on the street randomly, like, who's the best actor of all time, there's a, like, good chance they're going to say Tom Hanks.
What is the...
Ooh, I almost would challenge that.
Really?
Yeah, I think because he's so relatable and great, I think people forget he's just like a great actor. I think people like him and he's known.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he would fall on most people's list of great actor, which is sad.
Yeah, he's like the Mr. Rogers of actors.
Because he did play Mr. Rogers,
Yeah.
and he
And
did a great job at it.
Sure. I haven't seen it.
It's so good.
Okay.
Especially if you watch Mr. Rogers. He really makes you believe he's Mr. He doesn't look like Mr. Rogers, but he still makes you believe that he's
Somehow.
Mr. Rogers.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Yeah. Oh, that movie was really emotional for me. I watched a lot of Mr. Rogers growing up.
So let's see.
Same.
Despicable Me. Wait, which one
Let's
did you
see.
cry at?
Despicable Me 2.
Yeah, and Mr. Rogers.
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. The 2 movies Ben cried
Those
at.
are the ones you'd expect, right?
Yeah, yep.
No surprises here.
When Gru and Lucy get married at the end, he starts crying.
It was emotional. Is it?
And the minions are dancing to like
The
YMCA or something like that. He starts crying.
Interesting.
It just touched
You're
me
a complex man, Ben.
at that
You're a
point in my
complex
life. I was, yeah. No, I'll own it. I am complex.
What is the best Tom Hanks movie, in your opinion?
Ooh.
Do you want me to list some out? Because he's in a lot.
Yeah, I mean, my knee jerk is, of course, going to say either this one or Forrest Gump because that's
he's-
just one of my favorites as well. But yeah, list some out and see if maybe something
The Green Mile.
changes my mind. Oh, do you want to hear something really embarrassing?
What?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've also
Hey,
never
that's
seen
in
it, so it's not
1999, so
embarrassing.
you can add that to the list because we've talked about how many great movies came out in 1999.
One of the best years of film ever. Yep,
Ever.
I will add it to the list. I've
Ever.
seen it.
He was
And-
in Sleepless in Seattle,
Saving Private
Philadelphia. I really think he's good in Catch Me If You Can. I don't think Catch Me If You Can is the best movie that he was in, but he has a really good performance in that movie.
I think the best one
And it's one of DiCaprio's best movies too, in my opinion.
Also
is-
agree.
Polar Express.
I haven't watched Polar Express in years,
No,
so I
also
can't.
never watched it. Something about it's
The
almost animated.
yeah.
It's also
The
computer.
motion capture.
It's
real
extremely
creepy.
creepy. If
Nope.
you've listened
How
to our
about
White
this?
Chicks episode, you know Kenzie, and she doesn't like this film because it's creepy.
How about Toy Story 3?
Or 4. Right?
But it's hard
Anything
to say.
other than one,
It's hard.
obviously.
It's hard to say because he's not like an actor, but like, I mean, he is really memorable as Woody, even as his voice.
Cars.
So, well, he's in Cars.
Mm-hmm.
Who's he playing Cars?
Was it Doc?
No, he doesn't.
Or no, he's
That's
in
Paul Newman.
No, he's in Cars. He's in Cars, I promise.
No, he's not. He's
Yes,
not
he
in
is.
Cars.
He's in Cars.
I'm looking at 2006. He was in the Da Vinci Code that year.
Hold on.
Oh, the Da Vinci. I forgot about he did those movies.
Yeah, he was in, and he's been in some like, like Captain Phillips, and I've watched Sully. He's pretty good in that. So he can do like really like.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is like the way he picks movies. You can plug him into like kind of like, I'm not saying Sully is a bad movie, but it's kind of if you're not into like the genre of movie, which is like kind of sappy heroic story that's like true, and you know that it's great that it happened, that this guy saved everyone and landed in the river, like that's great, but it's like a movie version, and it's kind of like he's in a lot of those types of movies.
He is in Cars. There's like the end credit kind of thing where there's like a Woody car.
Oh, and
do you remember that? And there's a Buzz Lightyear car. Yes.
Yeah, that's cheating.
Well done on your obscure information.
Thank you. I love Cars. I'm a big Cars guy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stand by Forrest Gump then.
Yeah, Forrest Gump's a good.
Which we need to review sometime. It's such a great film.
Oh,
yeah, maybe we need to do Zemeckis.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Actually, what would be other ones?
Well, you could do the Back to the Future trilogy or just the first one. And
Going off of your dad's love for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I feel like he has some. Zemeckis has some like more obscure movies that are good. I just haven't seen them.
Gotcha.
He's recently been in Wes Anderson's crew. He's going to be in the new Wes Anderson movie this year, and he was in Asteroid City. But that is not really saying a whole lot because every actor in Hollywood is in.
Now, Shaz, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, favorite movie of all time is Fight Club.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. We reviewed it, and funny story, Zach, had a guest on that podcast. Zach was supposed to come. He never showed. So me and Jake Blennis reviewed it without Zach. Mm-hmm. And Zach has still never seen Fight Club.
Yeah. And I refuse to without Ben. I'll see it one day with you.
So I kind of feel bad about that now because there's only 2 Movieville episodes that Zach wasn't in. And one was really early on, and it was kind of before. We were kind of like, we were like really like we have to do it every week, and Zach couldn't do it that week. Ooh. So we had a fill-in host. We've never done anything like that. We've just pushed it off to the next week if it comes to that now.
Every week seems ambitious.
Yeah. In our stage of life, we realize it's very ambitious, and we probably aren't going to hit it.
Hey, but we're almost 5 years in, and we got 132 right now?
Yep, 132 episodes.
Yeah.
And that was the second one. So hopefully that never happened. That was I more so was because we had a guest. I was like, we can't.
No, you had to do it, Ben. I understand. I think I was doing some pre-med stuff that night or something.
I'm sure it was something like was more than you had anticipated.
I think I was doing hospice volunteering, and then it went too late because I had to help with a patient or something. Yeah. And I texted you, I'm not going to make it, like an hour after I was supposed to be there. And I think you had already started at that point.
Yeah, we were like, Zach will just hop in. It was fine. It was I assume I haven't gone back and listened to it. Hopefully it was a good episode. But yeah, I love Fight Club.
I'll have to go back and listen to it and see what you thought of it.
Yeah, I love Fight Club. I go back and forth on my favorite David Fincher movies because I watched quite a few of his movies.
We reviewed The Game.
And we reviewed the Game.
And The Social Network.
Social Network. We've done a couple Fincher movies, and I really
have we reviewed Seven?
No, but we should.
That's a good one. Have you seen Seven?
Oh yeah, that's one of those movies. I saw it once. I'm good, and it still casually sometimes haunts my mind.
Yeah, when that guy they find him in the house all bloated, that was disgusting.
I feel like Fight Club is a movie that is like so dark and like messy and grimy, but you still want to watch it over and over again.
Yeah, it doesn't haunt you. It obviously it's not a thriller to begin with, which is just not my main genre, but similar to Joe versus the Volcano, obviously very different vibes.
Yes.
I've gone back and watched Fight Club a lot, and it's my favorite movie, but I probably quote that movie once a week, even if it's just to myself.
Perfectly casted movie. Like there's lots of great things about Fight Club. And I want to read the book because that's my new thing. Zach will know.
He's into books right now.
Books
we just, by the way, go to our YouTube channel, The Last Resort Network. Ben has his February book reviews on there right now. It's just a quick video about some books that he read this month.
Yeah, only 3 books, so only 7-minute video.
Yep.
So
3 books in 1 month is more than some people read in a year. Yeah. So you know what? Well done, sir.
Yep.
I told him 8 books last year, so
I'm very jealous that you can read pleasure books, which is nice.
Yeah, now that I'm out of school, a little bit more free time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you say that this film impacted you, or is it more, going back to Joe versus the Volcano, or is it more of a film that you come into just to have fun? Where do you rate it on the heaviness scale? Because that's something I was thinking about. It's kind of both for me.
Yeah, I think especially since the crooked road line ever clicked with me, I've gone back to that and I've thought about that of just a windy road, and I'm just on the windy road, and that's okay. So I do revisit that sometimes. And then there's that really interesting scene when he's delirious on the luggage raft, and he has this kind of pseudo encounter with God.
Yeah.
That every now and again, especially if I'm looking at just like a big full moon or sky full of stars, that'll come back to me too, of just remembering. Yeah, all of it. I'm just, thank you for my life. That is just the moment that's really interesting.
Definitely.
That stuck with me. So I think those, I go back to those, but not as frequently as, Fight Club, I guess. And, but I will say Joe versus Volcano is one that I will go back and rewatch just as a feel-good movie. It's definitely like a just a little shot of dopamine kind of
that's
movie.
great, because different films have different uses. You can you never go to Terrence Malick to feel good. That's the thing. It's kind of
or some of my favorite movies are like not movies that are, like you said, feel good. Like my ultimate favorite movie is, everyone knows, Donnie Darko. You may not know, but a lot of our listeners. And it's
I know.
It is a dark, like, mysterious movie, but it also does make me feel good because I love the music, I love the atmosphere, I love the characters. I don't love all the characters, but some of them. And it's just a fun movie. So I think that's why I've maintained that as my favorite movie, because even if I could say, like, intellectually or from a technical standpoint, there's better movies, that doesn't mean they, like, mean something. And you always have to remember that art and movies, and they're supposed to make you feel something. So it could be, like, technically amazing, but if it leaves you feeling like nothing, then
like Tenet.
Really even do it. Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah.
From a technical standpoint,
Tenet.
from a, like,
checks all the boxes,
but there's just not. It just feels hollow.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching a Lincoln commercial.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Washington's in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, mine's Seven Samurai. I've seen it twice. I think it's for fun. I love to watch Japanese samurai kill each other.
And it's long, so there's
to the list.
there's a lot of hours of getting to watch them, and it's just like a great hero's journey. Story.
And the hero's journey is, again, the best thing that you can put into a film. As much as we love David Lynch, you can't survive on eating David Lynch all day.
No,
you need bread and butter. You need Goonies. You need this film. You need Spielberg films.
Yeah. You need fun movies. You need bad movies sometimes. I mean, this is actually a good movie, but there's some movies that are just, like, fun, and you, like, are like, this isn't really good.
Like Cannonball Run 2.
Yeah, like we got a suggestion, the Burt Reynolds movie, know,
or Only You, which I don't even like. Chick flicks for the most part, rom-coms. That's not my genre, but this, again, early 90s rom-com with Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr. It's so stupid and silly. I can't tell you.
Marissa Tomei plays Peter Parker's aunt in Spider-Man.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, that's the only thing I know her from.
There it is. Yep, yeah. She is way younger in this movie.
Okay, that
but
makes
anyway,
sense.
but to the point of just, it's a silly movie. There's no depth to it. There's nothing actually of substance, but it's just a silly, fun movie.
What's the most nostalgic movie for you?
That's a really good question.
Well, you think mine's the SpongeBob movie. I love that movie. Cars? Oh, yeah, and you didn't remember that Tom Hanks is in it? Wow.
I don't want to talk to you right now.
Wow. We're having our first fight on the pod.
Sometimes I don't like looking at your face.
I like
we're
looking.
Fighting 132 episodes in. We're finally.
It's our first
there's
fight.
Finally some conflict.
It feels right that I was here for it.
I'm finally mad at you for the B movie and Fight Club. Finally. No, I'm just joking.
Okay, so because I'm me, I have to ask clarifying questions. When you say nostalgic, reminds me of my childhood. What do you mean by nostalgic?
Which one brings the most magic? When you know, you know.
Yeah. I mean, so I feel silly that the knee-jerk answer is just The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
Okay. Ariel.
Yes.
Interesting.
That makes, the era.
The music, the fun, the water, the whimsy, girl looking from the outside inside, wanting to be part of it, just all of it. Yeah. Little Mermaid.
Yeah. And I always found it to be an interesting Disney film. I've never seen it.
What?
I also have watched parts of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But have never seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of those movies that I missed, I'm like, that's okay. I'll probably have kids. It'll give me a really good excuse to catch up on all of these.
Yeah.
The ones I missed.
Let's wait. We can watch the Kaufman movies now. Yeah. Get those out of the way so the kids don't have to be scarred for life, and then watch The Little Mermaid with them.
Yeah, there's certain movies I'm watching now that I could not show my kids. So at least not when they're 2. Maybe when they're 25.
What movie do you find the most excited to tell people about? Is it this one or another one?
It might be this one because I think it's so not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I get excited to talk about this one because it's more novel. And
Yeah.
I do think almost everyone I think would enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, and it kind of puts us on the Spotify ranks when not many people have reviewed this film, so we can, they search
it helps, because
You're welcome.
Yeah.
like I think about it for myself because I'm like, I'm really interested in movies. So if there's one that I'm really like taken by, I'll usually like look up for a podcast for it. I don't care who made the podcast. I'll wait to listen to the podcast to see what I think of them. And then every once in a while there'll be a movie that like it seems like at least no one's ever reviewed. I'm like, gotta add this to the list.
We reviewed a movie
Someone
called
else-
Killer Sofa.
Yeah.
Very few reviews, and then we got the director on later on. It was so funny.
amazing.
It was
Yeah.
so funny.
All right, let's start a movement that gets this movie so popular, it's re-released in theaters.
That would be awesome.
Let's
That
do
would
it.
be awesome.
I like a good goal.
We need a
That'd be
viral
good.
moment. So
We need our moment.
yeah,
We haven't had our
deserve it.
moment. Yeah.
we've done our
We put in
we've
the
done our
work.
time on the internet.
Yes. Yes. We'll go big. We keep saying we'll go big, and then you know what they say? We don't believe in this, but manifest it. But we
Yeah.
don't believe in that.
We don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, our dads joke to each other when they run into each other that like they're waiting for the podcast to get big so they can retire.
Yep.
Respect that.
Yeah, and they're joking, but secretly Zach and I want it to not be a joke.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Just to get back at them one more time.
Well, we
No,
just
I get it.
we describe us in the nursing home with the microphones in the same room.
Just like floating from the ceiling
Yeah.
so that you guys
like
just have to
so many
speak out
different
loud.
things have happened in our life, but the movie vault's still there.
Yeah, nurse, come back in here. Can you move the microphone a little bit? My arms don't move anymore.
Well,
I love it.
I used to be a nurse. Yes, we know, Ben. You don't have to tell us again.
Who is this again? This is Zach. This is your podcast partner.
I hate that guy.
What? Why is his face so weird?
We're reviewing Black Widow. Wait, we already did that one. What are we doing? Anyway,
Yeah.
I want to be here for that. I love that.
that would be great. Well, you're gonna live longer than us.
Fantastic. Yeah, exactly. I can't wait.
So I would give this movie a solid 3.5 out of 5. It's not a 4 because 4 would be around Studio Ghibli films, which I'm at right now. 5 would be like the films that have stabbed me in the heart and ripped it out so the blood can gush. And then 4.5 is in between that. And then this is 3.5, like really, really good.
Yeah.
Not going to be in my gonna die films, only because the nostalgia isn't there for me.
Yeah.
I think
makes
that
sense.
has to build up. Like a film like the SpongeBob movie, which I would also give 3.5 stars, not because of quality, but because of nostalgia. So it's
So the nostalgia has made up. Yeah, that's kind of how I view ratings too. A lot of times,
like Cars would be a solid 4 for me
yeah,
because I know everything about it, including that Tom Hanks is in it.
right.
Yeah.
It was only 3.5 because I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
yeah. I
Obviously.
didn't know everything about the movie, even though I've watched it 40 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also rate it 3.5. Do we want to do some movie highlights now?
Yes.
Shaz, have you watched
Ooh.
any movies recently that you would like to highlight in like the last month or so? It's okay if you haven't.
Yeah, I feel like I have. Let me
I can go first.
Yeah.
jog my memory. I am older, so I
No,
have to
you-
jog my memory.
Yeah, we also have Letterboxd and we log all our movies so we never forget.
Oh, yeah, let me scroll through some things and think about it. You
Sweet.
guys go ahead.
So I watched Kiki's Delivery Service. My wife and I have been going through the Studio Ghibli films. This is our 4th one. All of them have been 4 stars or above. Incredible, incredible films. Great filmmaker. The Bob's Burgers movie, just 3 stars. It was funny. It was classic. I don't really watch Bob's Burgers, but she does, so we watched it. Captain America: Brave New World. This is kind of the big film that's out right now. I don't know what to think of it because it's a solid film. I'll give you that. And I'm not going to go against that Sam Wilson is Captain America. I just think Steve Rogers is much better. Steve Rogers had to suffer more. Steve Rogers' character arc is way more compelling. Sam Wilson didn't really have to suffer in this film that much. Not that suffering is required for a hero, but in Marvel movies, you know, they've toned down like the grit and kind of hyped up the spectacle. So for that reason, I gave it 3 stars, whereas The Winter Soldier is like a 4-star for me. I watched Dogman, kind of fun. You know, my wife's kid that she works with really likes Dogman, and we took some kids from church to go see it, so it was good. That's it. So, like, again, with the Captain America thing, like, we're always going to ask the question, is Marvel over or is Marvel back? Is Marvel over or is Marvel back? I think it's always going to be a question, and we're going to keep getting mid-movies like this moving forward. I think there are going to be some really trash ones coming out. Thunderbolts could be insanely trash. Could be. It's not going to be the next Marvel savior. I'm sorry to say it. These Avengers movies are not going to save Marvel. I'm sorry, Kevin Feige. This is just, I have to have a Marvel rant every few episodes. And the other film, Fantastic Four, so much is riding on this film. They're trying to make them the new face of the MCU. I'm just not sure. It's like when you have a friend that says, hey, can I hang out? And then they're like, in the last minute they cancel. Hey, can we hang out? Last minute they cancel. Hey, can we hang out? Last minute they cancel. You stop asking that friend to hang out at some point. That's where I'm at with Marvel. They've kind of left me hanging on red for so long. And I might be ready to move on. Anyway, what's your guys'?
I've already moved on from Marvel.
Yeah, so I know. Well, you weren't that close with him.
That emotionally.
You weren't that close with him. You didn't have sleepovers with him.
It's been this hard of a breakup for you.
It has been.
Yeah, I tried to revisit because I've fallen behind because I too had checked out for a while, and I recently watched Thor and Thunder.
Thor: Love and Thunder, which we reviewed, and you can hear our review.
We were excited about it.
Yeah, because it's Chris Hemsworth,
and it was Thor, and the Ragnarok one was great.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this, and I do. I like the Thor stories, and I got excited about the idea of a lady Thor.
Yeah,
it was just on so many levels.
Ridiculous.
So yeah, and then I saw the obviously the little teaser for the next one. I went, nah, hard pass. We're all right.
Yep, Thor will return in some stupid movie,
and I won't be here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but thank you for the moment to revisit what I have watched. Aside from Love and Thunder, I watched the Saturday Night movie on Saturday Night Live.
The 50 Years one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not the special, the actual movie.
There was a movie called Saturday Night, right?
Yeah. So it's actually an interesting movie. The movie is, I think, almost set in real time of the kind of almost 2 hours that lead up to the actual very first episode. So it's just that moment of time leading up to the very first Live from New York. This is Saturday Night.
Interesting.
And it was good. I mean, so if anyone asked me what would be my absolute dream job, it would be to be a regular on SNL.
Wow.
So I've always had a love for Saturday Night Live, and some of the best comics have come out of it. Anyway, so I love SNL, so I watched the movie. I thought it was good. I don't know what I was expecting going into it, but it was maybe... when you watch a movie that just it's very high paced and has a whole lot going on, if you're not in the right headspace for it, it's just kind of frustrating.
Yes.
I think that was the problem. I think I just wasn't calm enough on the inside to handle such a movie that would just stress me out.
Yes. No, that's a good point.
So I might need to revisit it, but I thought it was good.
Yes. There is some subjective experience to watching film where your mood determines your interaction with it.
Totally. And I try to be mindful of that, but sometimes you just don't know what you're expecting with a movie. So yeah, I thought that was okay. And then I also recently watched Damsel, which I don't know if that's that new. That's with Millie Bobby Brown. Interesting premise where these girls are sacrificed for this kingdom.
Okay.
Like this prince, he marries them, and then they get sacrificed for the kingdom to survive, and then it's her, trying to survive it.
Yeah.
And fight the odds. Again, I thought it was fine. I don't know. I felt like it was ultimately a waste of my time. I could have made a better movie choice because I watched so few. I could have made a better choice.
When you watch few, your selection choices become more important.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, Columbus native Corey Michael Smith played Chevy Chase in that Saturday Night movie. Oh. So that
he did not play himself. Did anybody play themselves?
I mean, no. I'm sure no, because they were all young. They would have had to play a younger version of themselves.
I see.
He actually went to Otterbein, my alma mater.
Really?
So
shout out
trust
to
me,
Professor Johnson.
They will be talking about that on all the campus tours because this is the most successful guy, and they say they have a really good theater program, which I'm not saying that they don't necessarily, but they like to talk about it like it's like on the same level as like somewhere in New York. It's like the best you can do in Ohio, probably. But
Wow, Ben, trashing on your alma mater.
okay, sorry. I'm probably gonna get
Or just being realistic.
really
it's
nasty
okay.
email from. No, I'm not. Nobody. they
It's
don't care
easier
about
for me to
that one.
trash on Ohio State because
There's
it's such a big school,
Yeah.
and it's like, but like,
What I say has more repercussions on the university potentially
yeah,
than whatever you could say about
Yeah.
Ohio State.
yeah.
All right, so my movie highlights.
I'm sure you've got a few.
I've got not super a lot. So I also have a Ghibli one, Howl's Moving Castle. Really good, 4
Great,
stars
great.
in my opinion. Loved it.
You ever seen any Studio Ghibli films?
No,
War.
well, if I did, I don't remember because I don't know that's who made it.
Totoro?
Nope.
Okay.
Spirited Away is the most famous. Really good. Really
Japanese
creative.
animation. It's
Yeah.
really good.
I do like Japanimation. Okay.
Yeah, it's just really creative stories too. Just amazing animation, really creative stories. Really loved it. Yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is good. I watched David Cronenberg's Existenz, which is like he's
He's about to get all snobby. Just let him go.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite Cronenberg movie. It had a lot of body horror stuff, which is cool. It was kind of about what if you were so far in virtual reality that you started to not be able to, it was kind of one of those premises. You couldn't distinguish real life from fantasy, but it had a lot of really weird like body horror stuff. Like
Yeah.
is in all of Cronenberg's movie. I only gave it 3 stars. It wasn't because like the body horror stuff and the premise was all cool, but I'd like at the end of the day the plot and everything was kind of. I think Cronenberg has done better. Is more so my critique.
Scanners, is that better?
I like Scanners better than Existence.
Okay.
Scanners is like grosser and cooler.
Videodrome?
Videodrome is way better. Videodrome's maybe.
And then
Cronenberg's
obviously
best.
The Fly's better.
The Flying Videodrome are like my favorite Cronenberg movies. I watched Hundreds of Beavers. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, I've heard of
This
it.
is like a modern silent film. It's very slapsticky, micro budget movie. I think it was made on like $15,000, and it's like
Wow.
made like a ton of money. They've like run it in theaters for a year or two, and it's kind of had this like really underground following. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like super locked into this movie the entire time, but from what it's kind of surreal and if you're like going in to try to follow like a specific plot, it's just like funny. It's funny. I don't know whether it like hit me quite like it hit some people who really liked it, but I thought it was really creative.
Sean Fennessy gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I also gave it 3.5 stars. I think it's good for movies like this are coming out, but it's not like it was like a 5-star like groundbreaking thing. I watched Poltergeist with Emma for one of her classes. She had to pick a horror movie, so Poltergeist was kind of like the perfect like it's kind of scary, but it's kind of got like that suburban like family drama element to it. It's really weird.
I don't know if I would ever add that as the also, but sure.
I mean, it kind of does, yeah.
It's a family drama.
I haven't seen Poltergeist.
It's good. I liked it a lot. Really cool production design.
Texas
stuff like
Chainsaw
that.
Massacre director Tobe
Yeah.
Hooper.
It's also one of those once you see it then in so many other movies.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
I'm
very,
sure.
very,
Yeah.
very influential.
Yeah.
I watched Clue.
The original with Tim Curry?
Yeah, the original one. It's so
classic.
good. It's hilarious. And like now they make movies like they're making the Minecraft movie. Like this is how movies based on like some sort of IP thing should be. Like it's so creative and like funny and like it feels fresh even though it's like pulling off of a board game. Like now you feel like if that happened, first of all it would be geared too much towards kids because Clue is like definitely an adult.
Well, they've made Clue movies. The Knives Out.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Those are good too, but the original Clue is excellent. I watched Titan. Would not recommend.
By the
Did
way,
not have fun
Ben's
watching.
review for this movie did not enjoy watching this.
It took me.
Sometimes that's all you need to
It
say.
took me like a month, and I kind of forced myself to finish it. Very unpleasant movie. It's kind of a body horror movie again. It's a really weird French art house movie that won the Palme d'Or. I think that's.
It won the Palme d'Or.
Yeah, of course it won the Palme
Sean
d'Or.
Fennessy gave it 3.5 stars.
Could not really tell you what the plot of this movie is, but it seemed miserable and sad and just like gross.
Wow.
And not in a Cronenberg like fun, gross way, but just like kind of. It's kind of one of those movies that like you don't feel good about watching. So I would not recommend. But I did watch it, so 2 stars for that one. I watched the original Mad Max, which I've kind of gone like I didn't realize like the history behind Mad Max. It was very like much like it was in the Australian like Ozploitation like low budget scene, but it like was kind of the biggest movie that came out of that.
Yeah.
And the first one is like just like crazy Australians like chasing each other in cars and stuff. And honestly, it's like it's fun. There's like something about it that makes it good, but it's not because it's like technically that impressive or anything.
Yeah.
But I think it like turned into something else eventually, but I thought it was cool. And then I watched Quiet Place Day 1, which was okay. But it kind of is, again, what's everything that's wrong with movies coming out today, which is that the original idea and concept of the first Quiet Place was amazing, and even the second one was pretty good, but then you start making 3, 4, 5, it starts to become like, how much can you really do with this?
It's not so quiet here anymore.
Yeah.
No.
It's not like it was like bad, but it just felt a little soulless.
It didn't add anything to the franchise. It was just an origin story that didn't reveal any new secrets or anything like that. It reminded me of Fear the Walking Dead, where it's like all the secrets of how the zombie apocalypse started is going to be revealed in this show. It's literally the same thing, except less cool. Anyway, I go on lots of rants of things I don't like. We never go on rants of things we like.
No, honestly, I struggle with this because I love going to the theater to watch a movie once in a while, especially, if it's been out for a minute, go to an empty theater on a, Tuesday afternoon. And I feel like every time I have that space in my schedule and I pull up what's out right now, I look at everything and go, I don't want to see any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely happens. Like, so last time I did that was with Nosferatu, which was, I think, worth going to see. But like lately I've been like, this is kind of a dead zone for movies this time of year.
Yeah.
But I've been like, there's really nothing I would be like go out of my way to go see. Just watch something at home.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think as the year goes on, there might be a few movies that pique my interest, but it's definitely harder and harder to like find them.
Yeah. That's why I just
frustrating.
keep going back and watching either movies I know, so they're just comfort movies.
Yeah.
Even if they're dumb ones like Burlesque, which it makes no sense why I've watched it as many times as I have, but I have. Sharon, Christina Aguilera, and a lot of dancing. I can't help myself. It's fun. I go back and watch a bunch of old movies, but nothing. I need friends to always tell me, or I listen to the Movie Vault and I go, interesting. Let me go check that movie out.
Which is what we try to do.
That's really our goal. So I'm glad somebody is actually taking advantage.
Yeah, there it is.
Like,
they did not pay me to say that.
We don't want you to watch a movie, that you would never be interested in watching, but maybe our review will make it worth watching.
And if you listen to our episode and you're like 15 minutes in and you're like, oh, this movie doesn't sound appealing, just turn the episode off.
Yeah.
I think 15 minutes is when we get the listen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after 15
and listen
minutes.
on Spotify.
You should
so
always listen for 16 minutes.
Yes, every time. You can't know a movie until you listen to us talk about it for 16 minutes.
That's it.
And assorted other things.
Yeah. Always assorted other things.
Write
Sometimes
that
an hour of assorted other things.
Yes.
But not today. I think this is as good a time as any to close. So
yes,
we'll shout out our sponsor real quick, Headman Anglin Agency.
Yes, 614-486-7300, 614-486-7300. Tell them that Ben and Zach sent you. We've had people go there. They really like it. Listen to our Hidden Life episode if you want to hear a personal testimony of someone switching from a big budget, or not big budget, sorry, I'm in the movie world still. Let me step inside the vault and outside the vault. A big company to a smaller, more personal, calm, collected, trustworthy person. Call Jonathan Anglin and his partner at Headman Anglin Agency.
Hooray for small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We love small businesses at the Movie Vault.
We are one.
We're a really struggling small business.
Yeah. We're struggling to provide for ourselves and
your wives.
with the pennies that we make. Literally. At least we make pennies. That's pennies.
True. That's something.
We must be grateful. It's always something, huh?
Ducats. In the movies, they call them ducats. It's always something with you, isn't it, Zach?
Yes, there's always something with me. Yes. Well, thank you so much for introducing us to this movie. It was a great, awesome pick. This is like the palate cleanser. Think of Ant-Man and the Wasp right after Endgame, or right after Infinity War. Palate cleanser for us.
Because guess who we're going to next? Should we say?
David Lynch. Another heavy series, but more spunky, fun, and exciting. In honor and memoriam of our favorite director at the Movie Vault. We can say that now, right?
Yeah, we can say he's our favorite director.
David Lynch. We hope to have you on for one of those. We'll figure out the scheduling and everything like that. But we're going to go through the rest of his films, right? Except for one that we will save for a while.
Yeah, I think we'll get through to most of them for sure.
Yes. And then we'll also have a special 138th episode that will come out.
Yeah. That might split the middle, I'm thinking, if we're going to truly get through all of them.
Well, there'll be 5 and then 2 after that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Then special 138. And then I was thinking, we're almost at our 5-year anniversary, so we should start thinking, send an email to themovievaultpod@gmail.com.
Yes.
If you have an idea of what we should do for our 5th-year anniversary.
Yeah, we will do anything.
I think it's sometime in August. I have to look at the exact day.
I think it's August 5th, 2020.
Okay.
I'm just joking. I have no idea.
That sounds like close to right.
Yeah.
So.
August 5th, 2022 was my MCAT.
5th year anniversary is wood, so maybe you make plaques.
That would be good.
Or swords.
I'm going to put it in my office.
Awesome.
Swords?
Sword fight. Just shooting ideas. I'm an ideas woman.
Well, Shaz, we hope to have you back on. Do you have any last thoughts about the film before we head out?
No, I think I'm so glad you guys liked it. I get excited. I sometimes wonder if maybe the nostalgia aspect, slants my view of it. So I'm so glad. It was so fun to look over and see you guys with big smiles at different parts of the movie.
He and I smile at different things, by the way. Yeah, like sometimes I was and he's frowning, and it's the opposite.
So, but there was generally joy. You can say what you want about your face, Zach. You were happy watching it.
I was. Movies.
But yeah, so I just hope more people will go watch it. And more of these kinds of movies, right? Like, there's a message, but it's still fun to watch.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the... Sorry, it's going to take one more minute. That's the best combination of films, because it's like, you have something to say, so it's not a throwaway film. You can learn something from it, but it's also fun. It's not going to depress you. That's a movie where if you're kind of in the mood of like, oh, I just want to go home and kind of take a break, but like, I don't want to get too lost. I want to stay grounded.
Is it me in movie form?
Yes, it's Shaz.
Sometimes movies do say a lot about you, which is scary that like my next 2 favorite movies are Lahane and why am I blanking on it? The Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Those are like really sad movies.
Yeah, they are, aren't they, Ben?
And then Fellini's 8.5,
Yeah.
which is like maybe
About an affair.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Therapeutic silence.
Yes.
And Donnie Darko.
Yes.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, that's a good place to end, huh?
All right, I guess we should close the vault now.
If you've learned anything, it's that Tom Hanks is in cars and always pick out good luggage.
Yep.
Always. Sometimes the splurge is worth it. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yes, of course. That counts as the close.
Yep. You ready to jump into the volcano?
Yes.
Spelunk!